Hey there, and welcome to exercise number 91. Can you believe we have only 10 exercises left and that all of this project is done? Like, I really can't believe it when I started working on it and I was thinking, oh my god, I gotta record 100 videos. That seemed like a lot. But now we only have 10 to go, so it feels it's almost done. Now, this being said, you might be wondering, well, who is this guy? What's he talking about if this is the first time you see this video? So, if you want to solve the exercises we're gonna solve in this one, click on the link in the description. If not, keep watching and we're gonna solve it together. In this one, we need to write a function named reverseReduce that will be used to extend the array prototype with a custom implementation of the reduce method. Now, this function will behave similarly with the built-in reduce method, but it will iterate over the elements starting from the end of the array to the beginning. Below we have an example, so I'm going to take the reverseReduce function and I'm going to add it on the array prototype. Then I'm going to take an array of names here, so we have Bob, John, Alex, Sammy, and Diana. And then I'm going to create a variable named concat_names that's going to be created by calling reverseReduce on the names. Then we're going to get the accumulator, the current value, and the current index. And we're going to return the accumulator plus this string here. And our initial value here will be empty string. Then we're going to print concat_names. And it should print Diana on index 4, because again, we're starting from the end. Sammy on index 3, Alex on index 2, John on index 1, and finally Bob on index 0. So basically, the current value is going to be starting from the end. The current index is going to start from the end, so the entire reduce is like reversed. Now that we've read the description, let's go into the right side into the code area and start solving the exercise. But before I actually start to write code, I have opened the documentation because the reduce function is a bit more trickier than you may think. So I have here a tab from Mozilla Developer Network, and let's look at the reduce method from the arrays, right? So I'm just going to go here to the syntax and let's look at all those parameters because there are some differences here. And also a small note, I'm not going to explain what the reduce does, like this is an advanced function, I assume you know about it. I'm just going to explain the differences, like what's different if we have an initial value or not, and how this, not how, but what this means when implementing the solution. So the reduce function gets a callback function, right, which executes for each element in the array. Its return value becomes the value of the accumulator parameter on the next invocation, right? For the last invocation, the return value, so we basically call it again and again and again by passing an accumulator and the current value, and this way, for example, we can use reduce to add all elements in the array. Now, here's an interesting one. The accumulator is the value resulting from the previous call, right? On the first call, its value is initial value if the later is specified. Otherwise, it's array of 0. Now, since we want to reverse it, it's not going to be array of 0, but it's going to be the last element of the array. So let's go here and start with this. First, I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it array, and it's going to be equal to this, because since we call reverseReduce on the array prototype, this is the array. Now, I'm going to create another variable, accumulator, and according to the documentation, again, on the first call, is initial value if it's specified, otherwise is the first value. But since we're doing reverseReduce, it's going to be the last. So accumulator is initial value or array of array.length -1, right? So it's either the first one or the last one. Moving on, we have another parameter. So let's go back to the documentation and we have current value. So the value of the current element on the first call, this is array of 0 if we have an initial value specified, otherwise it's array of 1. So depending on initial value, again, we either start from 0 or 1. So I'm not going to create a current value here in our code, but I actually am going to use the index because we're going to do a for loop. So going back to the code, we're going to create let starting index is initial value is different than undefined. So if we have a value, then it's going to be the last one, array.length -1, otherwise it's going to be array.length -2. And now we actually get in the, let's say, the logic of the reduce, because we're going to need to iterate from the starting index till 0, I minus minus, right? Again, we go from reverse. And each time we're gonna call callback function with 3 parameters: accumulator, current value, current index. So accumulator, current value is actually array of I, current index is I, and also the 4th parameter is the array. So let's put the array here. Now this will return something, and we're going to put this in the accumulator, which we're going to use for the next call. So I'm going to do accumulator is equal to. And finally, going back to the end, we're going to return this accumulator. Now this looks good. So let me just test the code. So I'm just going to copy it from here. Let's just do this, and we get Diana on index 4, Sammy on index 3, Alex, John, and Bob on index 0. So this looks legit. Now let me test the solution, and voila, it works. Now, before I'm going to close the video, just one more note. If you maybe fail to solve it, or you got stuck, just read this documentation very carefully, because it's actually very, very important. And this being said, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!